All right, BAD-2700. Welcome to Module 12. So I understand that most of you are probably a little bit stir crazy by now. Just hang in there. We'll get through this. We'll get through the semester. We'll get through this this pandemic, and then we'll all come out the other side just fine. So just hang in there. So this week, getting back into our studies, we're going to look at chapter 13. We're going to talk about developing employee relations, and we're really going to look at that from three perspectives. We're going to talk about the relationship between a leader and a manager and the employee relations specialist. We're going to talk about communications, and then we're going to talk about recognition programs. All three critical aspects of human resource management. But I will tell you that from my personal experience, the first one, that relationship between a leader and a manager and the HR specialist or the employee relations specialist is absolutely critical. I can tell you that there wasn't a week that went by that I didn't have a sit-down conversation with my HR specialist just to see how things were going and whether or not we were doing things correctly. I always ran policy by the HR specialist. Always looked at the HR specialist kind of as a gauge of how things were going in the organization. So very critical relationship to have. And it's also critical for that HR specialist to be able to develop that relationship with the employees themselves, to be the person that employees can come talk to, can ask questions, can seek out advice on the best way to do things. So very critical. The second topic on communications, I'm sure each of you may have already completed BAD-1335, business communications, or some other comm-related course, and you understand the notion of senders and receivers and the message and all that confusion and things going on around you that essentially equates to noise to distract from the message. So as leaders and managers, and especially in the HR world, we're going to need to understand how to communicate, when to communicate, to what degree, how much information, what type of channel do we use? Do we use face-to-face meetings, group meetings, video teleconference, or just a recorded message, all the way down to the least effective in terms of feedback would be a written memo or an email, something like that. So it's important to understand those communications topics and how they are employed in this environment. And then lastly, we're going to talk about employee recognition programs and their importance and the different types and how you would employ those. So this week in Module 12, you have a couple of assignments. You have your first project assignment. And that's to do your job selection synopsis and the outline. Now, your synopsis is nothing more than about 2 paragraphs describing the job, and there's some criteria in the assignment there. Make sure that you put some thought into that. Make sure that you can address all 5 areas that would be in M16P1. They're clearly defined in there. And then in that follow-on project in M16P1, you're going to actually write in detail about just 2 of those 5. Your final project should be about 2 to 3 pages in length with enough detail and enough reference material properly cited to clearly define and indicate your level of knowledge in those areas. You do have a discussion this week on employee assistance programs. Make sure that you're applying the material from the class and properly citing that, but also, as I've said multiple times, dig deeper. Look for information outside of the textbook, outside of what you've heard in this class to support your position. Maybe you'll come up with something completely different. And then respond to at least 2 of your classmates and challenge them. Dig deep. Look at what they've written. See if you agree. See if you disagree. If you disagree, make sure you provide reference material to support your position. And then, as always, you have your chapter quiz, the M12Q1 this week on chapter 13. So again, make sure you're getting out, make sure you're taking care of your mental health and physical health. And when I say get out, I mean like in your yard, your neighborhood, something where you could socially distance, but still get in a little bit of physical exercise and a little bit of mental relief and emotional exercise as you walk around. Spend some time on your studies. Don't spend all your time on Netflix or YouTube. And again, stay focused. We'll get through this. I hope each of you has a great week, and I look forward to seeing your work. Thank you.